Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a slow walk back to a foggy morning in the woods. A place where the war felt less like a war and more like the world holding its breath. It's a story about stillness, about small things like damp boots and nervous hands, and about the day I shared chocolate with a German sniper. Funny thing, when you've lived as long as I have, and I've outlived most of the things that used to scare me, the things you remember aren't always the big moments, not the medals, not the marches. Sometimes it's just the sound of a chocolate wrapper, unfolding like paper wings in your pocket when everything else is deathly still. Turns out, love letters don't get you out of doing the dishes, but offering half a chocolate bar might just stop a bullet. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I don't care much for numbers, but I do care that you're here, and if you feel like it, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I always imagine folks scattered across the world, drifting off to sleep under the same old stars. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The fog is thick this morning, the kind that clings to your sleeves and gets into your eyelashes. You step out of your tent, and already your boots are heavy with dew. The ground is soft, springy, like a wet sponge underfoot. Not much sound, except the occasional thump of someone else moving in the mist, their silhouette just a shifting shadow. You stretch your back. It cracks the way it always does. Even back then, when you were young and thought you were invincible. You were never invincible. None of us were. But we acted like it, didn't we? That's the thing about being 19 in a day war. Your bones ache like you're 60, but your brain still believes in movie hero endings. Breakfast smells like powdered eggs and overboiled coffee. You remember it clearly, not because it was good, but because it was warm. And when you're that, cold, even rubbery eggs can feel like kindness. You sit on a log with a few of the boys. There's Harris, always complaining about his feet. He had trench foot twice and still wore the same damn socks. And Willie, to everyone but the sergeant, was humming some tune from back home. Something soft and sweet about a girl named Mary or Molly, or maybe Mabel. You never did find out which. You chew slowly, looking out at the mist curling through the trees. It's too quiet, and you know what that means. It means something's watching. Or waiting. The sergeant shows up not long after. His voice low, his coat dusted with frost. Got some movement near the orchard ruins, he says, coughing into his elbow. You take a look, quiet-like. You nod, barely finished with your coffee. That's how it always was. Barely finished, barely rested, barely ready. But the war didn't wait, and neither did the sergeant. You sling your rifle, check the weight of your canteen, and stuff that chocolate bar deeper into your pocket. Not because you think you'll eat it. No, not yet. You're saving it. Like some people save lucky pennies or photos of home. A charm, maybe. A reminder that sweetness still exists even out here. As you move into the woods, the fog swallows everything behind you. Your footsteps are muffled, and even the birds seem to have decided not to bother. Funny how quiet it gets right before the world turns loud. The ruins aren't far. An old stone farmhouse, half collapsed. You remember the ivy crawling up one wall like it's still alive, trying to pretend the house isn't broken. You crouch low, fingers brushing moss, eyes scanning tree lines. There's no sound but the steady rhythm of your own breath. And you get that feeling, the one you can't explain. Not really. It's not fear. It's not danger. It's the sense that you're not alone, even when you can't see anyone. Like the woods are holding their breath right along with you. You pause, heart tapping, behind your ribs and think, what am I even doing here? Not just here in the woods, but here, in this war, on this side of the world, thousands of miles from the little house with the leaning mailbox and the creaky porch swing. You remember that porch? You remember your grandmother's tea that tasted more like herbs than actual tea. And you remember a girl who once sat beside you and asked if you'd ever seen the ocean. You hadn't. Not then. You hadn't seen a lot of things, but today you're about to see something you'll never forget. You shift your weight. The wood underfoot creaks, just a little, and somewhere, not far, maybe 30 yards, something creaks back. You freeze, not out of fear exactly, more like instinct. That ancient part of your brain that still thinks it's a deer, and the forest might eat you. You wait, and the fog starts to thin just a little, revealing the broken bones of trees, and something else, something shiny, a glint of glass. And suddenly, you know, you're being watched, not hunted, not yet, just watched. And for some strange reason, you don't duck, you don't run, you just stay there, breathing slow, with a chocolate bar in your pocket and a strange calm settling over your shoulders like a blanket. Maybe, just maybe, today's not going to go how you expect it to. Not every story ends with a shot. Some start with silence and a shared piece of chocolate. You stay crouched there, perfectly still, your breath fogging gently in the cold air. The silence between you and the other, whoever he is, wherever he's hiding, stretches thin like a wire between two tin cans. One wrong sound, and the connection snaps. It's odd, isn't it? How even with all the training, all the drills, all the yelling and marching, when you finally find yourself face to face with the possibility of a sniper scope pointed at your head, the only thing you can think about is whether you should have brought gloves. Your fingers are freezing. You glance down slowly, like the earth might be able to offer advice. It doesn't. Just dirt, frost, and your boot prints leading right up to this crumbled wall. You decide to move, but only a little. Shift your weight to your heels, ease your shoulder against the stone, and peer through a gap in the wall. Across the orchard, past the dead trees and their crooked shadows, you spot the glint again. There, tucked beneath a twisted apple tree, almost camouflaged in the roots, a shape, just a silhouette at first, a slight shimmer, then stillness again. He's not far, and you realize he saw you long before you saw him. But still, no shot, and something in your gut says this isn't the usual standoff. This isn't ambush or bloodlust, or even fear. This feels different. Like both of you are trying to figure out the same thing. What now? You could raise your rifle. You could take the shot. But you don't. Instead, you lean back against the stone and sigh, loudly enough that if he's listening, yeah, and he is, he'll hear it. And then you do something even stranger. You pull the chocolate from your coat pocket. It's the kind they gave out in ration kits, wrapped in waxy paper, with little ridges like it thought it could pretend to be a candy bar. It's probably half melted from your body heat, but to you, it might as well be gold. You hold it up, not too high, not waving it like a fool. Just high enough that if he's looking, he'll see. No words, just the offer, because sometimes the only piece you can make is the one you give first. You think of your grandfather then. He used to trade eggs for buttons with the neighbor boys during the Great Depression. He always said, barter builds bridges, not bombs. Of course, that didn't stop him from cheating them out of a few good buttons now and then. But the idea stuck with you. Barter, offer, bridge, so you snap the chocolate in two. The sound, that that small sharp crack, echoes in the still woods like a twig snapping. And then you do something absolutely ridiculous. You stand, not all the way, not in a showy way, just enough to raise your hand, holding out that half bar of chocolate like you're presenting a peace treaty from the gods. There's a pause, a long one, and then, impossibly, the figure under the tree shifts. A hand rises, not a gun, not a grenade, just a hand. You nearly laugh, or cry. You're not sure which. All you know is that in this mad frozen moment, two boys, because that's all you both are really, are trying to figure out how to exchange candy without getting shot. You start walking, slowly, each step deliberate, crunch of frost underfoot, no sudden moves. Your heart hammers in your chest like it's trying to break free and run back to camp. And as you get closer, you see him better. He's younger than you thought, barely a shadow over 20 if that. Blonde hair under a wool cap, sharp nose, tired eyes, the kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep, the kind that comes from too much loss. He's got a rifle, sure, it's beside him, but it's not in his hands. His hands are open, and as you stop a few feet away, he says, in halting, careful English, "Chocolate?" You nod. Chocolate. Then the strangest thing happens. He smiles, just barely, just the corner of his mouth. Like even he can't believe it. You toss the chocolate gently, and he catches it with both hands, like he's afraid it'll break. He stares at it for a moment, turns it over, smells it. Then he breaks off a small piece, pops it in his mouth, and lets out this tiny sound, a sigh, a real one. You don't know how long you stand there, just looking at each other. Two kids in uniforms, too big for them. Two humans, on opposite sides of a line, drawn by old men in clean rooms. And you think, maybe courage isn't about bravery at all. Maybe it's about making space for something softer, even when you're scared out of your mind. Eventually, he speaks again. "Danke," he says. You shrug. "Don't mention it." You sit, just for a moment, on a chunk of stone nearby. The world feels balanced on a thread. The war is still happening, just outside this moment. But here, in this strange pocket of time, there's just you, him, and a shared bit of sugar. He reaches into his coat and pulls out something wrapped in cloth, unwraps it slowly. It's a hard biscuit, probably older than both of you. But he breaks it clean in half and offers you a piece. You take it. You eat in silence. And it tastes like something ancient and dry and terrible. But it also tastes like peace. Later, when you return to camp, and you don't mention the sniper or the chocolate or the biscuit, you realize that what you did wasn't surrender. It wasn't foolish. It was necessary. Because sometimes you've got to be a fool to stay human, and in a world that keeps trying to make monsters out of men, that's the bravest thing you can do. The days after the chocolate exchange feel quieter, like the trees themselves are holding their breath. You never see that boy again, the one with the rifle under the apple tree and the tired eyes. But something in you changes after that day. Not loudly, not in a way anyone would notice. Just softer around the edges, like worn denim or old bread crusts. There's a lesson in that, something your mother used to say when you scraped your knees as a kid. Sometimes healing doesn't look like a miracle. It looks like a scab. And you think maybe kindness in war is the same. Not fireworks. Just tiny, quiet moments when you choose not to destroy someone. Back at camp, the fellows go on arguing about everything from politics to how best to heat your boots by the fire. No one suspects anything's different in your mind. You laugh when they joke, nod when they curse the cold, and hold your tongue when they brag about the men they've shot. Not because you're judging, but because it all feels a little heavier now. You remember the boy's hands. This way, he caught the chocolate like it was glass. There was no tremble, no flinch, just trust. And you think about how you didn't earn that trust. Not really. You just offered something small. But sometimes that's enough. One night, a new guy joins your unit. Skinny, wide-eyed, barely finished shaving. Says his name's Charlie from Wisconsin. He talks a mile a minute and keeps asking if anyone's got spare socks. You give him your extra pair without thinking, and he lights up like you handed him the moon. Later that night, as you lie under the stars, listening to the wind shift through the tents and the rustle of rats at the edge of camp, you whisper to yourself, "It's always the little things." And it's true. The little things matter more out here. A dry sock, a full canteen, a piece of chocolate. You remember a time, years ago now, when you got a splinter under your thumbnail from a schoolyard fence. Hurt like the devil. You ran home crying, and your dad, a man of few words and thick hands, sat you down at the kitchen table with a sewing needle and a peppermint candy. He didn't say anything, just worked the splinter out, slow and careful, then handed you the peppermint and nodded like that was the whole of life right there. Pain, patience, and something sweet at the end. The peppermint melted in your mouth, and you swore right then you'd never cry about a splinter again. You wonder, lying there beside the fire, if maybe that's what you gave that German boy. A peppermint moment, something sweet in the middle of all that sharp. The next morning, you're on patrol again. The fog is thicker than usual, swallowing the trees and dampening every sound. You and Charlie walk side by side, your boots sinking slightly into the frost-covered earth. He chatters nervously, words spilling out like coins from a torn pocket. "Never thought war would be this quiet," he says. "I imagined guns and shouting. But this, it's like waiting to sneeze for 3 weeks straight." You chuckle, and he brightens. He's the kind who thrives on a good laugh. You point to a knotted tree trunk ahead and say, "See that? Back home, we had one just like it near the outhouse. My brother swore it was haunted. Was it? No. But we let him think it was, kept him from sneaking out to the orchard at night." Charlie laughs, the sound bouncing softly off the trees. And you smile because it's moments like this. Small, ridiculous stories told in the middle of nowhere that make things bearable. Suddenly, a bird bursts out of a bush nearby, wings flapping like rifle shots. Charlie jerks his gun up before he realizes what it is, and his breath catches in his throat. You place a hand on his shoulder. It's all right. You'll get used to it. But you're not sure that's entirely true. You've been out here long enough to know that you never really get used to it. You just get better at pretending. That night, you find yourself unwrapping your last piece of chocolate. You stare at it for a while before biting into it. It's slightly bitter, probably older than it should be, but it melts in your mouth like nostalgia, and you find yourself whispering into the dark, not even sure who you're talking to. I hope he made it. You mean the German boy, of course. You picture him somewhere warm, with a wife who nags him, and children who shout, and a garden that refuses to grow right. You imagine him remembering the moment too, maybe even telling it to someone, the same, where you are now, maybe calling you der Amerikaner mit Schokolade. You like the sound of that, and you wonder, maybe peace isn't just the end of fighting. Maybe it's the memory of mercy, passed down like an old recipe card or a lullaby. Charlie snores beside you, and you envy him for it. The kind of sleep that comes to those who haven't seen enough yet. You hope he keeps that innocence just a little longer. Your thoughts drift to your grandmother, the way she used to sing while washing dishes. Off-key, always the same song. Something about sunlight and violets. You'd groan every time, but now you'd give anything to hear it once more. Funny how war sharpens your hunger for soft things. You stare up at the sky. No stars tonight, just cloud cover, thick and blank. Still, you speak to it like someone's listening. I shared chocolate with a sniper, you murmur, and he shared a biscuit. It sounds absurd out loud, but maybe that's the point. Life is absurd, war even more so. But kindness makes sense. Kindness is the one thing that still fits, even when the rest of the world feels two sizes, too small. You close your eyes, the chill biting at your ears, and let yourself drift, not to sleep, not yet, but to memory. And in that memory, the chocolate is still warm, the biscuit still dry, and peace is something you can taste. The winter deepens, and with it, the kind of cold that makes your bones feel older than they are. Even your thoughts start to shiver a little, curling into themselves for warmth. You're on rations again, and everyone's patience thins out like stretched wool. Charlie starts to mumble in his sleep, sometimes crying out for his mother, sometimes just muttering nonsense. You don't wake him. You know better. Let dreams be the only place he gets to go home. You wake up one morning and realize you've been counting days by how many socks you have left clean. That's war in a nutshell. Not the number of battles, but the number of dry socks. The squad moves out to a new post, tucked into a frozen ridge near a stream that sounds like it's whispering. Secrets under the ice. You're on lookout duty more often than not. Your rifle resting on the lip of a sandbag wall. your breath fogging up in little puffs that vanish before they matter. And one day, just one, something strange happens again. You spot movement. In the trees, the same orchard where you'd seen the sniper weeks ago. You freeze, scope to eye, and there he is. Or at least, someone. Same stance, same careful steps. This time, he's got something in his hands. Not a gun. Not quite. It's a piece of cloth, white, waving. You don't raise your rifle. You just watch. He kneels, sets something on a rock, and disappears. You wait a full hour before climbing down. Charlie offers to come with you, but you shake your head. Too cold for two. When you reach the rock, you find a small tin box and a folded piece of paper. No note, just a drawing. 2 stick figures, one with a helmet, one with a cap, sitting under a tree. Between them, a bar of chocolate. You open the tin. Inside are 2 sugar cubes and, Lord help you, a tiny bottle of brandy. You chuckle. The sound cracks in, your chest like a warm fire. You look up at the tree branches overhead. You cheeky little devil, you say. You don't take the tin. You leave it there, untouched, and walk back with the paper folded in your coat pocket. That night, around the fire, someone asks you what you saw. Just a fox, you say. Ran off before I could aim. They nod. No one asks further. Everyone's too tired to chase ghosts or stories. You take the drawing out before you sleep, smoothing it over your knee, staring at those little lines. 2 people, under a tree, not fighting, just sitting. It reminds you of a girl from back home. Annie, you took her to the county fair one summer, slipped away from the crowds to sit under the oak tree near the edge of the field. She told you she was scared of growing up. Said, "What if we never see peace again?" You told her, "Then we'll just make a little peace for ourselves." She kissed your cheek. That was all. You never got to say goodbye before the draft pulled you away. Sometimes when the wind whistles through the cracks in your tent, you wonder what became of her, if she ever found that peace. If she still sits under trees, waiting for someone who once brought her silence in the middle of a world too loud. That night, Charlie asks if you believe in miracles. You think for a long while before answering. Not big ones, you say, but I believe in little ones. A warm fire, a dry match, a sugar cube on a bad day. He nods like that makes all the sense in the world. Then he says, "I think you're the oldest person I've ever met." You laugh. Wait till you meet Sergeant Mulberry. He farts like a ghost giving up. Charlie wheezes so hard he scares off a bird from the tree above. You both go quiet, watching it disappear into the clouds. And then you say something you didn't mean to let slip. "I shared chocolate with the enemy once." Charlie tilts his head. "Like trading?" You shake your head. "Just sharing." He waits, but you say no more. Some things, even now, you have to hold in your chest like secrets in a snow globe. Beautiful, delicate, best left undisturbed. The next morning, frost crunches under your boots like broken glass. You check the rock. The tin is gone. You leave. Nothing in return. Just press your hand against the cold stone and walk away. Later, you wonder why. Why keep returning to this memory? Why does that moment stick like a burr in your mind, while the chaos, the shouting, the blood, all fades into vague impressions? Maybe it's because mercy is harder than violence. Maybe because it asks more of us. Or maybe it's just because kindness surprises the heart, makes it skip just a little, like a boy seeing snow for the first time. You once heard a priest say, "A man is remembered for the peace he brings, not the war he fights." You don't remember his name, just that line. It's stuck with you ever since. The rest of that day is spent in silence. The kind that isn't empty, just full of thoughts you can't quite shape into words. When you sleep, it's the softest sleep you've had in months. And in your dream, you sit beneath that tree with the sniper boy again. He speaks this time. You don't understand the words, but you laugh anyway, because his smile is real. You pass him the chocolate again, and this time he passes you a pencil. You draw, both of you, on opposite sides of the paper, and when you wake up, the corner of your mouth is turned up just slightly, the kind of smile only dreams can carve. A few weeks pass, and the fighting starts to thin out, like a fever breaking after too many long nights. The snow gets thicker, quieter. Your boots leave deeper tracks now, the kind that fill slowly behind you, like time trying to erase where you've been. You and Charlie take turns patrolling the southern edge of the woods near the orchard. It's the same place, over and over. Always that same rise, that same tree line, that same feeling in your gut, like something unfinished lingers there just out of reach. One morning you wake up early, earlier than usual, before the others had start their groaning and stretching. The air inside the tent is sharp, and your breath fogs like a tiny engine sputtering to life. You slide your coat on, the one with the patched elbow and the button that never stays shut. You pick up a small paper bag from your pack. Inside, your last real luxury. 2 small pieces of chocolate. You were saving them for Christmas, but it feels like the right day. Or maybe just the right kind of quiet. Charlie stirs. "Where you headed?" You pause. "Nowhere important." He rolls back over. "Bring me a miracle if you find one." You trudge through the powder, each step a soft thud in the blanket of white. The world feels padded, muffled, as if sound itself is sleeping in. You reach the rise overlooking the orchard. No movement, no signal. But still, you wait. You take out the chocolate and place it on the rock. Slowly, gently, like laying down something sacred. You don't wave. You don't speak. You just sit on a nearby stump and watch the wind play with the tree branches. Time stretches in strange ways in the snow. Minutes feel like hours. You lose count of how long you sit. But then, just as you're considering heading back, you hear it, the crunch of snow from the opposite side. Your pulse tightens. Your fingers twitch near your rifle, but you don't move. From the trees he steps out. He's young, maybe younger than Charlie. Wool coat, too big for his frame. His rifle is slung on his back, not held. He has a scarf covering half his face, but you can see his eyes. They're watching you the same way you're watching him. He stops a few yards from the rock, nods once, you nod back. He crouches, picks up the chocolate, and replaces it with something. A flat piece of metal, a coin maybe. Then he turns and walks away, slow, deliberate, never showing his back fully. just enough trust to make it count. You wait till he's disappeared. Then you walk to the rock. It's not a coin, it's a medal. German, old-looking, worn, smooth in the middle. On the back, someone scratched a single word. Bruder, brother. You sit on the stump again. Turn the medal over in your hands. It's cold, heavier than it looks. You slip it into your coat pocket, right next to the drawing he left last time. You whisper into the wind, I hope you're warm tonight, kid. The next few days blur. Letters arrive from home. One of your buddies gets trench foot. The radio breaks, and Charlie swears he can fix it with just wire and pure rage. One night the firewood runs out. Charlie complains until his teeth chatter so hard it sounds like Morse code. You throw your coat over him and tell him to think of summer. He says, "Summer's a myth invented by old people to keep us alive, through February." You chuckle and admit you're not entirely wrong. Then, in a moment of rare honesty, he asks, "You ever hate them? The Germans?" You stare at the ceiling of the tent for a long while before answering. "Sometimes, when I'm angry, when I'm scared, but not always. Not that kid anyway." Charlie turns his head toward you. "What kid? You stay quiet." He says, "You're full of ghosts, old man." You sigh. "Aren't we all?" That night you dream again. This time the orchard is blooming, full of white flowers instead of snow. The air is warm, like spring finally broke through the war. And in the dream you sit under the tree, and there are no uniforms, no guns, just people, just stories. You wake with your hand resting over your coat pocket, over the medal. The war is still going, of course, still loud, still real, but something in you has shifted. Maybe it's not peace you've found, maybe just the memory of it. A flicker, a trace, enough to keep you human. You remember something your grandfather once told you, back when you were just a barefoot kid chasing frogs through the creek. He said, "Kindness is quiet. It doesn't shout, doesn't win parades, but it stays. It lingers like the smell of wood smoke in a shirt you haven't worn in weeks." You never really understood it, not until now. Now you feel it, in the quiet trade of chocolate and medals, in the mutual silence of two scared boys pretending to be men. The war will carry on, but so will this memory, and that's something worth holding on to. You don't tell anyone about the medal, not even Charlie, especially not Charlie. Some things you learn are easier to carry when you're the only one holding them. It's funny how something so small, so quiet, can make the world look different. You walk the camp with a little more patience. You listen more. You snap less. Even your coffee tastes different. Maybe it's not the beans. Maybe it's just you. One morning, as you lace up your boots, Charlie tosses a rock at your mess tin. "You're walking like you're in a dream lately." "What gives?" You shrug. "Guess I found a new reason not to be angry all the time." He squints at you. "That sounds like something an old lady would say before making pickles." You smirk. "Well, old ladies usually outlive us, so maybe they know a thing or two." That day you're on latrine duty, which is about as glamorous as it sounds. You find yourself humming while scrubbing a rusted bucket. A few of the boys throw you strange looks, like maybe the cold finally cracked you. But there's a comfort in the routine. The smell, not so much, but the rhythm. Scrub, rinse, repeat, like the war forgot about you for a second. Later, a letter arrives from your sister. She's 16 now, and she writes about the boy who works at the bakery and how he gave her an extra roll just because she smiled at him. You laugh softly, picturing her blush. You remember when she used to eat chalk because she thought it made her smarter. Funny, the things we believe when we're young. You read the letter 3 times before folding it up and tucking it in with the medal. Different weights, but somehow they balance each other. That evening, a supply truck rumbles in, late and louder than necessary. The driver, some kid named Glenn with a terrible haircut and even worse jokes, hops out and yells, "Gentlemen, you are now the proud owners of exactly 7 cans of beans and 1 whole fruitcake." A groan echoes through the tents. Charlie mutters, "I'd rather eat my boot." You call out, "I think the boot might have more flavor." Glenn, undeterred, hands you the fruitcake like it's gold. From a church group in Kentucky, "Merry early Christmas." You turn the tin over in your hands. It's wrapped in bright red paper, frayed around the edges. Someone drew little snowflakes in blue crayon on the side. It smells like cinnamon and dust. You don't open it. Not yet. That night, you pull your coat tighter and walk out past the tree line. Just far enough to see the rise. Just far enough to feel the memory humming under your skin. You sit on the same stump. The rock is empty. You take the fruitcake, tear off a small chunk, and place it there gently. Maybe it's silly. Maybe it's pointless. But then again, maybe not. You sit a while longer, listening to the wind whistle through bare branches. You think about your mother. She used to hum when she cleaned, even when she was tired, especially when she was tired. You didn't understand it then, but now you do. That soft resistance, that quiet refusal to be broken. There's a lesson in that. You glance up at the moon, barely visible through the trees, and whisper, "She hummed through the hard parts." When you stand, your knees crack like brittle twigs. You groan and say, "Maybe next time bring a chair, genius." The next morning, the fruitcake is gone. In its place, a folded square of canvas. Inside, a crude pencil sketch. It's you, sitting on the stump, the orchard behind you, and next to you, drawn with simple, careful lines, a boy in a German uniform, looking out toward the horizon. Not at you, not at war, just out. As if imagining something beyond it, you feel the breath catch in your chest. You fold the canvas slowly, reverently. You don't smile, not this time. You just hold it in your hands, like something fragile. Back in camp, Charlie's arguing with the radio again. You walk past him and pat his shoulder. "Let me know when you figure out how to tune into peace." He stares at you. "What are you on lately?" You shake your head. "Something better than beans." You think again about the words scratched into that medal, brooder. You wonder if he has a brother. You wonder if he lost him. You wonder if the same ache lives in his chest. That night, you don't dream. You just sleep, deep and still. But when you wake, you feel like something important happened anyway. Maybe silence can be a message too. Maybe forgiveness doesn't always come with an apology. Maybe trust is just the willingness to sit near someone you once feared. You stretch, rub your eyes, and whisper to yourself, it's not about who wins, it's about who remembers. Then you put on your coat, feel the medal and sketch tucked safely inside, and step out into another cold morning, ready to do it all over again. The day begins with a light frost brushing the tents like powdered sugar, and you swear your breath hangs longer in the air than it used to. Winter is settling in slow and stubborn, like an old man easing into a wooden chair. You rub your hands together, not to warm them, but to remind yourself you're still here, still breathing. Charlie's already up, trying to start a fire with wet twigs and his usual optimism. You pass him your last dry match. He nods, doesn't thank you, but you both know what that nod means. You ever think about what comes after? He asks casually, like he's asking about soup. You glance up. After breakfast? He snorts. After this, the war, all of it. You shrug. Not if I can help it. Thinking too far ahead makes your boots heavier. But later, as you're sweeping out the supply tent, yes, they make you sweep dirt. You do think about it. About the life waiting somewhere past the gunfire and orders. About a porch with peeling paint. About someone laughing in the kitchen. Maybe you, maybe not. That night, you sit at the stump again. This time, there's no fruitcake, no drawing, just silence. It should feel lonely, but it doesn't. You whisper, you still there? No answer, of course, but in the quiet, you remember something else, a different kind of silence. The day your little brother Samuel was born. Your father stood at the window, didn't say a word, just held your shoulder. No speech, no lesson, just a hand, just presence. And that was enough. You smile. Maybe that's all we ever really need. Someone to stand beside us, say nothing, and still be there. Charlie joins you, tossing a small pouch of tobacco onto the stump. For your imaginary friend, he jokes. You raise an eyebrow. That's fancy stuff. I stole it, he says, from our own quartermaster. Technically, it's not even stealing, it's inventory management. You laugh, real and loud, and it startles a bird into flight. You light the pipe with care. You don't smoke, not usually, but tonight feels like it's asking for something ceremonial. As the smoke curls around your face, Charlie asks, you think this'll all mean something one day? You blow a slow stream into the dark. Not sure it has to. Maybe just meaning it today is enough. That night, when you return to your bunk, you find another sketch tucked under your blanket. This one is different. It's the orchard again, but in spring, drawn as if from memory or dream. Blossoms blooming. No uniforms, no weapons. Just a boy sitting on the same stump, holding a piece of fruit, smiling at something just out of frame. You study the lines. They're confident now, free. Not the tight, cautious strokes of someone hiding behind a scope. You touched the paper gently, like it might bruise. Good hands, you murmur. Gentle ones. You lie down without folding it. Let it rest beside you. The barracks smell like wet boots and loneliness. But somehow, tonight, the air feels softer. Like even the war decided to take a breath. You drift off thinking about the orchard in bloom. You try to picture what colour the blossoms might have been. Pink, maybe, or white. But in your dream, they're blue. Soft, impossible blue. Like your sister's ribbon, and you don't question it. When morning comes, Charlie is already half-dressed, muttering about rations. You tuck the sketch away with the others, careful not to crease it. You find yourself running your thumb over the corner like it might wake up and whisper something. Later that day, the orders come in. You're to move east, pack up, rotate out. A few cheers echo through camp, but your stomach sinks. Not because of fear, not even because of duty, but because you realize you won't be coming back to that orchard. You won't see the stump again, or the sketches, or whatever strange, quiet understanding had grown between you and the boy in grey. You walk out to the tree line one last time, fruitcake tin in hand. Empty now, just the wrapper left. You fold it neatly and place it on the rock. You made this war smaller, you say. Not easier, just smaller, and that's no small thing. The wind doesn't answer, but it wraps around your coat like a farewell. As you turn to leave, something catches your eye. A small mark on the trunk of the tree near the rock, scratched deep, like someone took their time. It's a single word, Danke. You exhale through your nose, smile, slow and sad. That stubborn goat, you say aloud, still trying to have the last word. When you get back to camp, Charlie eyes you. You go say goodbye to your woodland pen pal. You nod. Something like that. Claps your shoulder. We'll find another tree somewhere. Maybe, you say. But I don't think it'll be the same. Later, as the trucks rumble to life and the men climb aboard, you watch the orchard shrink in the rearview mirror until it's just a line of shadows against the snow. You think about how some friendships don't need handshakes or photographs, just shared silence, shared space. Maybe connection isn't about how much you say, it's about how much you listen. Maybe that's what peace is after all, just listening. The road east hums under the wheels like a lullaby sung by iron. The trucks bounce, creak, and rattle over every rut and rock like they're complaining in their own language. You sit in the back, knees to your chest, your pack crammed under. Your boots and the wind whips through the canvas flap like a curious ghost trying to eavesdrop. You don't talk much, neither does Charlie. He sits across from you, chewing on something that might have been gum back in 42. Every now and then your eyes meet and you both nod. That's it. That's all that's needed. War has a way of aging your silences. They aren't empty anymore. They're full of things you don't want to say too loud in case they turn out to be real. You pass through villages that barely remember their own names. Stone walls pockmarked with bullet holes. Roofs caved in like tired shoulders. Children peek from windows like ghosts of a future too fragile to hope for. You give one your last piece of hard candy through the truck slats. She smiles like it's gold. That sticks with you. At the new camp, they stick you in a shared barracks that smells like damp wood, wool and wet ink. The roof leaks in the back corner. One of the boys swears it's haunted. You name the leak Howard. Charlie starts saying, "Good night, Howard," before he sleeps. You tack the orchard sketch inside your locker, not to show it off, just to keep it close, like a window no one else can look through. That first night, you write a letter to your sister. You start it 5 times, cross out each version. Nothing sounds right. You end up just telling her about the blue blossoms. You don't explain what they mean. You figure she'll understand. The next morning, You're put on patrol duty through a stretch of forest where the trees grow too close together, like they're conspiring. You keep a slow pace, eyes soft, ears sharper than they've ever been. Charlie walks beside you, rifle slung but loose. Ever think about how trees don't fight wars? He says. You glance over. They just grow. Exactly. No alliances, no borders, just roots and time. You hum your agreement. Trees might be the wisest of us all. That's when you see him. Not the same boy. No, this one's older, leaner. Face carved up by time and frost. German uniform, rifle. But not raised, not pointed. He's just watching. You freeze. And so, does he? The forest holds its breath. Charlie doesn't see him yet. You raise your hand, low and slow, palm out. Not surrender, just pause. The man doesn't run, doesn't speak, just nods, almost imperceptibly, then backs away, slipping between the trees like he belongs to them. Charlie catches up, eyes scanning the shadows. What was it? You shake your head. Nothing. A fox, maybe. Later, you sit under a crooked pine and think about that moment. How something inside you said not to shoot, not even out of mercy. Out of memory, maybe. That night you dream again. Not of war, not even of home, but of that orchard. Blossoms falling slow as ash, and someone across the field sitting beneath, the stump, waiting. You wake with the name of a pastry on your lips. Linzer Torte. You laugh to yourself, remembering the one time you tried baking in your mother's kitchen. You'd swapped salt for sugar, and she'd eaten the whole thing anyway, just to spare your feelings. Mothers, you whisper, are the original resistance. You tell Charlie about the dream over breakfast. Half a tin of beans and something, grey you assume used to be oats. He grunts. Dreaming about fruit trees again. You're losing it, you grin. We all need our myths. He shrugs. Mine's a steak the size of a hubcap. You clink your tin against his. To myths, then. You start to notice the little things more now. The way the frost makes lace on the tent flaps. The way one of the lads hums the same lullaby every night before sleep, probably not realizing it. The way your boots wear uneven, always to the left. War is ugly, sure, but inside the cracks, sometimes, there's light. You get a letter from your sister. Inside is a drawing your niece made, crayons on the back of an old envelope. It's supposed to be you, she says, standing next to a big tree, with a red circle above it. Might be an apple, might be the sun, doesn't matter. You tack it next to the sniper's sketch. 2 pictures, 2 worlds, both holding pieces of you. There's a piece in that. A quiet kind. One night, during a downpour, a stray dog finds its way into camp. Soaked, shaking, eyes like something's chased it for years. Charlie throws it a scrap of corned beef. You give it a name, Lieutenant Whiskers. He has no whiskers. That's the point. He sticks around after that. Sleeps under your cot. Barks at shadows. You let him. One evening, as you sit sharpening your knife for the 5th time just to keep your hands busy, Charlie leans over. You ever think we're the good guys? You pause. Sometimes I think we're just the guys who are still standing. He nods. Maybe that's all it is. You finish sharpening. Still, I'd like to think I've done one good thing. Charlie grins. You have. You gave your last dry match to a man who thought he could start a fire with wet socks. You laugh, low and warm, and yet I'd do it again. Because that's the thing, isn't it? Life isn't always about the grand gestures. Sometimes it's just about the little warmth you pass along. A match, a sketch, a shared silence. You remember something your grandfather used to say? Don't wait for the war to end before you become the kind of man you'd be proud of. Maybe you've taken longer than you should have. Maybe you've still got a ways to go, but at least now you're paying attention, and sometimes that's the first step. Spring doesn't arrive with a trumpet blast. It seeps in quietly, like a letter slipped under the door. One morning you wake up and realize the frost on the tent flaps didn't bite so hard. The mud sticks less. The trees are whispering again, not groaning. Something about it makes your chest ache in a way that's not entirely unpleasant. The dog, Lieutenant Whiskers, starts chasing shadows again. Not out of fear this time, but play. You take that as a sign. Maybe he knows something. You don't. The war hasn't stopped. Shells still scream in the distance. Boys still disappear between breakfast and dinner. But there's a different air about the camp now. Like the earth itself is starting to hope again, even if it doesn't know how to show it. Charlie gets a toothache that won't quit. He swears he'd rather be shot than see the medic. You hand him half a bottle of aspirin and a dirty rag to bite. This, he mumbles, is the worst part of serving your country. You smile, but don't argue. They send you further east, past the line, into a town that looks like it held its breath too long and forgot how to exhale. You and Charlie walk past buildings crumbling like stale bread. A cathedral with a roof like a missing puzzle piece. A school with chalk still on the blackboard. Half an equation, half a prayer. You find a library there, mostly rubble, but down in the basement, tucked under a collapsed shelf, is a book. Spine cracked, pages yellowed, titled Baumgarten's Poetry of Silence. You don't know who he is, doesn't matter. You take it. Back at camp, you read it by lantern light. The lines are simple, sad, beautiful in a quiet, bruised way. One reads, "Even the wind needs a place to rest." That line sits with you like a warm stone in your palm. You fold the corner of the page. Promise yourself you'll write that down somewhere safe. One morning, you wake early, before the others, before even the birds dare stretch their wings. You sit near the mess tent, sketchbook open on your lap, pencil moving slow. You're not drawing war today, not ruins, not men with rifles. You draw a hand reaching out of a tree trunk, as if the tree itself is trying to remember what it once held. Charlie wanders over, coffee in hand, hair sticking up like he lost a fight with a pillow. That's supposed to be me. You shake your head. No, it's something older. He peers at it, then shrugs. Fair. I'm not that graceful anyway. News comes in around noon. A ceasefire is whispered. Not official, not confirmed, but close. Close enough that the chaplain sings a little louder during evening prayers. Close enough that someone opens the emergency whiskey and nobody tells. You and Charlie sit on overturned crates that night, watching the moon rise over broken fences. "What'll you do after this?" he asks, as if it's a real question now, not just fantasy. You think for a while. maybe teach, maybe paint. Charlie nods. You'd be good at that. Quiet work, work that listens. You don't ask what he'll do. He's already said, once half drunk, that he doesn't know if the world he left is still there. But tonight his voice is softer. I might go west, find mountains, get lost in something bigger than me. You clink your canteen against his. To mountains! Breeze picks up, carries with it a smell that's not quite smoke, not quite flowers. A strange mix, like grief and rebirth, tangled in the same breath. You fall asleep that night without dreaming. The next day, you're assigned to help evacuate a group of villagers from a mining town riddled with unexploded shells. You see a boy there who reminds you of the one you didn't shoot in the forest. Same eyes, same wary grace. You don't say anything, just hand him a ration bar and a pencil. He doesn't smile, but he doesn't run either. That's enough. Later, you help an old woman carry a trunk up a hill. It's heavy, awkward, but she refuses to leave it behind. When you reach the top, she opens it just enough to show you lace, photographs, a broken violin. It's everything I still am, she says, even after. You nod. You get it. You really do. That evening, the official news comes through. It's over. Just like that, the war ends not with a bang, but with paperwork. With boots trudging backward instead of forward. With a silence that rings louder than any shell. Charlie cries when no one's looking. You let him. You do too, quietly. For what was lost. For what you almost became. For the parts of yourself you hope to still find again. Back in the barracks, you take the sniper's sketch and your niece's drawing. You press them together in the middle of your notebook, spine to spine. You pack light, just your journal. A pencil, the poetry book. Lieutenant Whiskers won't let you leave without him, so he comes too. As you board the transport heading west, Charlie slaps your back. Think we'll ever be regular again? You shake your head. Maybe not, but maybe something better. Hill grins. Like resilient. You laugh. Like human. As the landscape slides past, trees budding, rivers thawing, you watch with eyes that see more now. Not just danger, but detail, nuance, possibility, and somewhere in the back of your mind, the orchard blooms again, not in memory, but in promise. There's a strange weight to peace. You'd think it would feel like relief, or maybe joy, but mostly it feels like standing still after walking for too long. Your legs still twitch with the rhythm of march, and your ears keep straining for sounds that no longer come. You sit on the train heading west, cheek against the cold window. Lieutenant Whiskers is curled beside you, snoring like a leaky bellows. Charlie dozes across from you, arms crossed, mouth slightly open. You don't wake him. Sleep, real sleep, is rare and precious. Outside, the world moves by. Quiet towns, cracked roads, hills green with cautious hope. Somewhere near the border, you pass a vineyard untouched by the war. A farmer in a wide straw hat waves up at the train like he's just seen his son return. You wave back, though you know he can't see your face. It's the first time in a long while that you feel like a person again. When the train stops in the French countryside for a supply change, you stretch your legs. There's a small cafe near the station, half open, half destroyed. But the coffee is hot and bitter, and the woman behind the counter doesn't ask questions, just pours and nods. You ask her if she has chocolate. She laughs. For Americans, always. You trade her a silver button from your coat for 2 tiny wrapped pieces. That night, you and Charlie camp under a willow tree just past the tracks. You split the chocolate in half and let it melt on your tongues. It's sweeter than you remember. Maybe your taste buds are coming back to life. Or maybe it's just peace doing its slow work on you. Charlie says, "This is the strangest part." What? Not having to be afraid anymore. You nod. You get used to fear, but you don't forget it. He pokes the fire. Sparks float up like fireflies. How long do you think we'll carry all this? You shrug. Maybe forever. Maybe not. A pause. Maybe we're not meant to carry it. Maybe we're meant to plant it. Let it grow into something else. He snorts. You sound like the chaplain. You smile. He wasn't wrong all the time. The next morning, you walk into a small town near the Belgian border. It's quiet, still healing. Children peek out from behind doorways, curious. You kneel and give one of them the last piece of chocolate. His eyes go wide. He grins and runs, off like you just handed him magic. You remember the German boy in the forest, the one you didn't shoot. You wonder where he is now, if he's watching spring bloom like you are, if he remembers the way the trees swayed. Later, in a rebuilt town square, a man plays the accordion. People gather, some clap, some dance. You and Charlie don't join in, but you watch. It feels like a different war now, or maybe a different life entirely. That night, as the fire dies low, you pull out your sketchbook, flip to the middle, to the drawing from the sniper, the sketch of you, the one he never finished. You finish it, you shade the lines softer, add the folds of your coat, the crease in your brow. You leave the eyes for last. Make them tired, yes, but kind, not broken. Then you write under it. We shared chocolate instead of bullets. You close the book gently. There's something about being known, even by an enemy, that sticks in the ribs. Maybe that's why you kept the sketch. Not because he captured your face, but because he saw it at all. Really saw it. And chose to do something else. You don't tell Charlie. Some things you carry alone, not out of shame, but out of reverence. In the days that follow, the transport reaches the docks. Soldiers scatter. Some head home. Some stay behind, rebuilding. Some get reassigned. You and Charlie find yourselves on a ship, bound for the States. It's quiet on deck at night. The ocean stretches out like a sheet of silk. You lean on the railing, watch the stars blink awake. Charlie walks up beside you. You think they'll even recognize us back home? You shake your head. Don't think that's the point. What is? You take a while before answering. Maybe we're not going back. Maybe we're just starting over. As whatever we became. He lets that sit for a bit. Then he says, I might open a diner. You raise an eyebrow. Yeah, serve pie, real pie. None of this powdered egg nonsense. You chuckle. You gonna call it Charlie's Powder-Free Cafe? Exactly. And you can hang your weird drawings on the wall. You nod. Deal. But only if I get free pie. Only if you earn it. The wind changes direction. salt on the air. Somewhere in the distance, a gull cries out, like it's searching for something it forgot. You breathe deep. The world is wide again. There's room now for pies and sketches, for silent snipers and second chances, for the kind of peace that doesn't need to be perfect, just real. And as the ship cuts across the water, carrying you toward a new life, you feel the weight in your chest shift, not disappear, just move, just enough to make space for what's next. You never expect silence to be so loud. After months of gunfire, shouted orders, rustling boots, and the ever-present groan of trucks and tanks, coming home feels still. Too still, almost. Like someone hit pause on the world. You arrive in your old town just after sunset. The train station looks smaller than you remember. Maybe you grew, or maybe war shrinks everything else. The benches are worn, the paint chipped, but there's a warmth to it all. A kind of humble stubbornness that makes you smile. No brass bands, no flags. Just your sister, holding a pie in one hand and waving the other like she's chasing away a bee. She's older, greyer, but you'd know that scowl anywhere. You're late, she says, even though you're not. You grin. Train was slow, or maybe time got faster. She squints. You always did talk like a poet when you were hiding something. Hiding, you say. Just tired, she softens, hugs you tighter than you expect. For a moment, your breath catches. Tight chests and sudden arms still make your muscles twitch. But you let her hold you. At dinner, everything tastes too rich, too soft. Even the bread makes you emotional. You try not to cry into your gravy. There's no shame in tears, but something about mashed potatoes being the thing that breaks you. Feels wrong, or maybe perfect. You sleep in your old room, the wallpaper's peeling, and the bed creaks like it's holding its breath. You lie on your back, staring at the ceiling cracks, and feel the war settle into your bones like a familiar chill. You don't fight it. You just let it rest beside you. The next morning, your sister hands you a letter. Came for you 2 weeks ago. No return address. You open it slowly. Inside is a single sheet, carefully folded, no words. Just a sketch. It's the sniper's drawing. The one of you, but finished now, cleaned up. Your eyes softened, your jaw less rigid. He's fixed the shading, added a tree in the background. Taped beside it is a small wrapper. German chocolate. You don't show it to your sister. Just fold it back up and slip it into your coat pocket. Some things aren't for explaining. Some things are just for remembering. Later that day, you take a walk down to the lake. The same one you used to skip rocks across as a kid. The dock's still there, leaning a little, like it's tired of holding secrets. You sit at the edge, dangle your feet. The wind ripples across the water, and you hear geese overhead. You close your eyes. You remember that one goose from the battlefield. Loud, arrogant thing that stole half your lunch and waddled away with no fear of artillery. You chuckle at the memory. Braver than I ever was, you murmur. A boy comes running past, nearly trips over your boots. He stops, out of breath, holding a toy airplane. You smile and hand it back to him. You ever fly in one of those? He asks. Once, you say. Didn't care for it. Too loud. No coffee. He laughs, then races off, arms out, making sputtering noises. You sit a while longer, long enough for the wind to pick up, the clouds to shift. You feel something uncoil inside you, like a knot letting go. That night, your sister bakes again. Apple pie this time. Real apples, no rations. You help peel them, though you're slow. Hands still ache sometimes. She pretends not to notice. She asks if you're going to find a job. You shrug. Maybe something quiet. What, like a librarian? Maybe a sketch artist? She raises an eyebrow. You nod. I've got some unfinished work. She doesn't ask what you mean. That's the nice thing about family. They don't always understand you, but they leave you space to be confusing. Before bed, you take out your old notebook. Flip past the drawings, past the maps, past the pressed flower you found near the trench line. You sketch the lake, add the boy with the airplane. Then you sketch the goose, big, bold, and ridiculous. And in the corner you write, "Even the foolish things had courage." You sit back, watching the ink dry. Maybe that's what bravery really is. Not medals or speeches. Maybe it's just showing up again. Peeling apples with sore hands. Drawing geese with a pencil that's too short. Saying yes to pie, even when you're not hungry. You place the book beside your bed, turn off the light, and let the silence hold you. Not like a threat, but like a blanket. There's a lesson in this, you think. Something about how peace doesn't need to be earned, only accepted. Maybe that's the bravest thing of all. You wake up with the soft creak of the bed springs and the scent of percolating coffee drifting up from the kitchen. Morning light filters through the curtains in soft golden beams, dancing across the old wooden floorboards like it's trying to coax you out of bed gently. You don't rush. You just lie there a while, hand behind your head, staring at the ceiling cracks that look like rivers on a map. It's strange how the quiet doesn't press on your chest anymore. It just settles around you like an old dog finding its place at your feet. You finally get up, stretch slowly, feel the tightness in your back that never fully left. Still, in one piece, you mutter to no one. Downstairs, your sister is pouring coffee, her hair tied back in the same lopsided bun she wore as a teenager. She slides a cup toward you without saying anything, and plops 2 sugar cubes in it like it's still 1941. "I saw Mabel Lawson in town," she says, half teasing. You raise an eyebrow. She still have that mole shaped like Ohio. She says hello. You sip your coffee and grin into the steam. The town looks about the same, if you squint. The corner store has a new sign, and the roads are paved now, but the bones are all still there. You walk past the barber shop, and old Mr. Renner waves like he never aged a day. Still cutting hair? You call? Still pretending to, he shoots back. They're funny thing about small towns. They forgive your absence by pretending. You never left. It's a kindness disguised as stubbornness. Later that week, you take a trip to the county school. Not for anything in particular, just a feeling. Curiosity, maybe. The principal walks you through the halls. You smell chalk and pencil shavings, hear the giggles of children through thin walls. In one of the classrooms, the teacher asks you to speak. You blink. What would I say? Anything, she replies. They're learning about the war. So you stand there in front of 12 wide-eyed kids clutching notebooks like their shields. You clear your throat. Well, I suppose I could tell you about tanks and trenches and marching through the cold. They all lean forward, but I won't. Groans ripple across the room. You smile, because what I remember most isn't any of that. I remember a goat that chewed through my backpack. I remember a French boy who taught me how to juggle with onions. I remember the moment I laughed so hard I forgot I was scared. You pause. I remember sharing chocolate with someone I was supposed to hate. Their eyes widen. Maybe war's not about the big moments, you say. Maybe it's about the tiny ones. The ones that feel like accidents but stay with you forever. The kids applaud, and one of them asks if you've ever flown a fighter plane. Nope, you say. But I once fell out of a truck. Does that count? They laugh. You feel warm inside. As you walk back to your sister's house, you think about how strange life is, how it spins in ways you can't predict, and brings you back to where you started. Not because you failed, but because there was something here you hadn't noticed before. You stop at the old post office. On a whim, you buy a pack of stamps and send a letter to an address in Germany you've carried in your wallet for years. No words, just a drawing. 2 figures sitting on a tree stump. Between them, a bar of chocolate. You don't know if it'll arrive. Don't know if he's even there anymore. But something about sending it feels right. Like tying off a thread that's been dangling for too long. Back at the house, you spend the evening mending your boots. Not because you need to, just because your hands like the rhythm of stitching. It reminds you of fixing things instead of breaking them. Your sister knits nearby, humming a tune your mother used to sing while hanging laundry. You both exist in the quiet. No need to fill it with conversation. Just presence. Just peace. Later, you light a candle and pull out the drawing from the sniper again. You tack it above your desk, next to an old photo of your squad and that ridiculous goose you sketched last week. You sit in your chair and stare at them for a long while. These relics of memory, pinned like artifacts from a museum no one else will visit. But they matter, and then you pick up your pencil and start to draw again. The lake, the chocolate, the silence, and a boy running with a paper airplane under a quiet sky. A little story, just for you, one that says, in the softest voice possible, you were there, and you came home. You lean back, exhale slowly. There's no parade, no speech, but the world has turned once more, and you're still here, sketching it as it goes. That's worth something. That's everything. You're out on the porch again, the wood warm beneath your feet, the sky yawning into pink as the sun tucks itself behind the hills. The air smells of honeysuckle and something faintly burnt. Your sister trying to make your mother's old stew recipe, bless her heart. You hold a small notebook on your lap, not the one with old maps or sketches of tanks, but the little brown one with a leather strap. Your thoughts, your half-finished letters, and a few grocery lists going back 20 years. Some pages are stained with coffee, others with something you hope was only soup. Tonight, though, you open to a blank page. No drawing, no scribble, just space. You tap the pencil against your lip, thinking. Funny how, after all the noise, the yelling, the marching, the orders barked through frozen mornings, now the silence is the loudest thing in your life. Not an empty silence, though. No, it's full of names, smells, mistakes, laughs, and moments so quiet you almost missed them. You remember a morning, One of those early ones in Belgium, where the frost clung to everything like a child, too scared to let go. You had frost on your eyebrows, in your boots, even inside your jacket. And yet you remember that morning not because of the cold, but because that was the first time you saw sunlight glittering through the frost like it was trying to show off. One of the fellas said, "Hey, look, diamonds everywhere!" And just like that, you all stopped marching and stared like schoolboys who'd stumbled into a fairy tale. It lasted maybe a minute. Then the sergeant yelled and the spell broke. But you held on to that moment. Still do, maybe. That's what life is. A string of glittering things in the middle of long grey stretches. And if you're lucky, or patient, you collect enough of them to light the way back when things go dark. You hear the kettle whistle from the kitchen. Your sister brings out tea with lemon and honey. No sugar, just the way you pretend to like it. She sits next to you without a word, just hands you the mug and leans back in her creaky wicker chair. After a while she says, "You ever think about seeing him again? The German boy?" You shrug. "I don't know if he's still around." But if he is, you sip the tea. It burns, but you welcome it. Then maybe I'd say thank you. Not for the chocolate, but for reminding me I was human. She smiles at that, and you both fall into the kind of silence that doesn't need to be broken. You sit there until the stars begin to show up, one by one, like guests arriving at a quiet party. And then, as if the night knows you need a nudge, a breeze picks up. It carries the smell of earth and something sweeter. You squint at the horizon and swear you hear the faintest echo of a harmonica, though it's probably just your own memory playing tricks again. Still, you hum along. You always liked music. Not the loud stuff, but the kind that makes your feet tap before your brain catches up. Back then, someone in your company carried a harmonica everywhere. Played it under moonlight, under gunfire, under the hum of boredom. He only knew 4 songs, but it never mattered. You remember once when the war had slowed to a crawl and everything felt like it might fall apart from the inside. He played, "Oh, Susanna," like it was the national anthem. And for those 3 minutes, no one thought about home or blood or tomorrow, just the tune. That was enough. You scratch another line in your notebook. Music is the only thing we can hear that doesn't have a smell, but still takes us somewhere. You chuckle to yourself. "That's one for the grandkids," you mutter, except you never had grandkids. Life had a different path for you, a little quieter, a little lonelier, but no less full. You look up at the stars again and wonder, not for the first time, how many of them saw what you saw. Not just in war, but in life, in waiting, in laughter, in silence shared between strangers. Maybe courage isn't about doing something dangerous. Maybe it's just about staying soft in a world that begs you to go hard. Maybe that's why you drew. Maybe that's why you shared the chocolate, and maybe, just maybe, that's why you're still here. The notebook falls closed in your lap as your eyelids grow heavy. You hear the screen door creak open and close again. Your sister bringing out a blanket. She drapes it over your shoulders like you're 8 years old again and snuck out to chase fireflies. "You okay?" she asks softly. You nod, just remembering. She squeezes your shoulder. "That's what you're best at," you whisper. not half bad at forgetting either. She laughs, and it's the kind of laugh that says I know you, even when you don't say much. You settle deeper into the chair, the stars swaying gently above. Insects sing in the grass like a lullaby only. The old truly appreciate. You close your eyes, and somewhere, in a quiet part of your mind, the lake ripples again. You're dreaming again, though it doesn't feel like dreaming. It feels like drifting through a photograph, sepia-toned, edges curling, the kind you find tucked inside a coat pocket 40 years too late. You're back in the forest, only this time it's quiet. Not war quiet, but nature quiet. The kind with bird song, the rustle of breeze through pine needles, and the occasional snap of a twig, just enough to remind you that you're not alone. Your boots crunch softly on the frost-bitten ground. You remember this trail, not from a mission, not from a battle, but from that strange in-between week when everything paused. After the chocolate, after the fires were doused, after the sniper vanished like morning mist. You and Charlie took a walk. Just the two of you, no rifles, just jackets and a couple of apples swiped from someone's rations. You never told who. The trees had started to bud, tiny green fists peeking out from brown branches, like nature was finally ready to fight back. You stopped to listen to a robin, its song sharp and hopeful, and Charlie said, "You think the trees know?" "Know what? That we're just passing through. That all this is temporary." You'd looked around, at the snow melting in thin rivulets, at the moss coming back to life on a fallen log, and you said, maybe they just hope so. That walk never left you. You woke up that night thinking about it, long after Charlie had fallen asleep in the cot next to yours. One arm flung across his face like he was blocking out dreams. You think about that walk now as you sit in the sunroom, your legs wrapped in that plaid wool blanket you keep forgetting to wash. It smells faintly of cedar and peppermint from last Christmas, when your niece gave you those funny little oils that you never quite figured out how to use. Out the window, the magnolia tree has started to bloom. Big, bold flowers like nature's. Apology for winter. You stare at it for a long while, then reach for your pencil. You sketch it. Not perfectly. Your hands aren't what they used to be, but enough. Enough to remember the folds of the petals, the shadows they cast on the window pane. Enough that if someone found the sketch 100 years from now, they'd know this flower mattered to someone. You think about the German boy again, how his hands trembled slightly when he broke the chocolate bar in half, how his eyes never quite met yours, except that one moment, right after the bite, when he smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a twitch, like a habit he didn't mean to show. You wonder if he kept drawing after the war, if he found peace, if he raised children who never had to learn to aim a rifle. You remember his pencil, short, chewed at the end, almost out of lead. You wonder what he drew with it after that day, if he ever sketched a memory of you. Maybe he did. Maybe he forgot you entirely. It doesn't matter, really. That moment wasn't about remembering. It was about being remembered. You lean back, in the chair, your drawing on your lap. The light is changing, getting softer, gentler. That golden hour before dinner, when everything feels dipped in honey, and the air smells like something you can't name, but always recognize. You hear a voice from the kitchen, your niece this time, asking if you want soup or stew. You yell back, "Surprise me!" Because after a certain age, all food tastes better when you don't know what it's supposed to be. She laughs and you smile. You haven't told her the full story. Not yet. Maybe you won't. Some things grow heavier when spoken aloud. Some things are lighter as sketches, as chocolate wrappers folded into shirt pockets, as memories dripped gently into late-night stories no one's quite sure are real. You trace the magnolia petals with your finger. They feel smooth even on paper. You murmur, more to yourself than anyone, "We're not made to last, but we're made to leave marks." And isn't that something? The sun tilts a little lower. Shadows stretch like lazy cats along the floor. You close your eyes again, not to sleep, just to see things clearer. You see Charlie smiling at you with that lopsided grin of his, holding out a half-eaten apple and saying, "You ever think about opening a bakery when this is over?" You see the German sniper crouched behind a stump, eyes wide as yours, both of you frozen by the absurdity of peace in the middle of war. You see yourself, years later, standing in front of a blank wall with a paintbrush in one hand and a stubborn hope in the other. You never did open that bakery. You never did write that book. You didn't do half the things you dreamed of when you were 20, but you shared chocolate with a stranger who might have killed you, and that counts for something. That counts for a lot. You feel the warmth of the sun fade from your cheek, replaced by the softer warmth of lamplight flickering on behind you. You hear footsteps. Your niece again, bringing that stew maybe, or just checking to make sure you haven't fallen asleep and tipped sideways in the chair again. You don't open your eyes, you just whisper, "I'm still here." And that's enough. You breathe in slowly, letting the evening air settle on your skin like a familiar sweater. The stew smells like rosemary and something you can't quite name. Maybe time itself. Or time. Probably time. Hard to tell these days. You hear the bowl being set down gently on the side table next to you. A spoon clinks. A napkin unfolds. She doesn't say anything, your niece. Just pats your shoulder once, warm and brief, then drifts off to wherever the younger people go when they aren't worried about creaky knees and old memories. You smile into the quiet, and then, without thinking, you murmur, "Did I ever tell you about the pine cone that saved my life?" No one's there to answer, but that doesn't stop you. It was 43, somewhere near the Vosges. Fog so thick you could have mistaken your own shadow for a ghost. I tripped on a pine cone and dropped. My whole pack landed face first in the mud, and 5 seconds later, the spot I'd been walking toward took a direct hit from a mortar. Can you believe that? You chuckle. The boys never let me forget it. Charlie started calling me Private Pinecone. Even wrote it on the back of my helmet in chalk. You lean back a little more, letting the chair creak its old wooden sigh. Funny how the most ridiculous things end up being the anchors of memory. Not the heroic charges or solemn flag raisings, but a pine cone, a chocolate bar, a game of cards under a tarp, while rain tapped out lullabies on your helmets. You remember clear as morning how the German boy drew a goat. Yes, a goat, the same, stubborn kind from your grandfather's farm, with the tilted eyes and the arrogant chin. You both laughed at how absurd it was. a wartime artist sketching livestock while the world shook itself apart. He'd handed it to you, that little scrap of paper, without a word, just a nod. You'd folded it up and kept it in your breast pocket, for weeks, even after the rain turned it soft as tissue. You wonder if he kept anything from you. Maybe the wrapper. Maybe a word you said. Maybe nothing. Still, that day stuck to both of you like honey on fingertips. You remember how Charlie would hum when he was nervous, old tunes from back home, songs about trains and rivers and girls with blue ribbons. Sometimes you'd join in, your voices off-key and tired but strangely comforting, like lullabies for grown men who were too stubborn to admit they were scared. There was this one night, could have been weeks after the chocolate incident or just days, hard to say. The stars came out like they'd forgotten there was a war below. And someone, we never figured out who, started playing a harmonica. Just a slow, wandering tune that rose over the trees and made you all stop what you were doing. Even the birds seemed to hush. You sat with your back against a tree, knees pulled up, helmet off, just listening. The sound had no words, no story. But you remember thinking, if peace had a voice, this would be it. You told Charlie that, and he grinned. Nah, he said, peace would be my mamma's pie, cooling on the windowsill. And just like that, the spell broke, and you laughed until your ribs hurt. You miss those kinds of laughs, the ones that leave you sore and breathless and a little less alone. You look down now at your hands, old and knotted, veins like rivers under skin paper. These hands held rifles, held letters, held a dying friend once. And a chocolate bar. They've planted flowers and tucked in grandbabies and turned pages in books you pretended to read when really you were just remembering. One of those books is open on your lap now. Nothing too heavy. A story about a man and a boat, maybe. You haven't made it past the 3rd chapter, and you're fine with that. Some stories are just there to keep your hands busy while your heart roams elsewhere. You trace the corner of the page with your thumb. The lamplight makes everything gold, even the wrinkles. You think maybe what made that chocolate day matter wasn't the candy. It wasn't even the truce. It was the decision. The decision to see a boy instead of a threat. A sketch instead of a rifle. A moment of humanity in a place that was designed to strip it away. You whisper, almost to yourself, maybe courage isn't about bravery at all. Maybe it's about choosing kindness when it's hardest. The wind nudges the window a little, like it agrees. You pick up the spoon, take a bite of the stew. It's still warm, just right. And for a moment, just a breath, the world feels still again. Like that night in the woods, like that smile from the boy, like the last line of a song before sleep takes over. You settle deeper into your chair, the soft glow of the lamp wrapping you in a quiet embrace. Outside, the night hums its timeless song, whispers of wind through leaves, the distant croak of a lone frog, the gentle patter of stars blinking awake in the velvet sky. Everything slows down, as if the world itself is taking a deep, restful breath alongside you. You think about how memories drift through time, sometimes sharp as the snap of a twig, other times like the fading scent of pine on a cool morning. They are the threads that stitch together the fabric of who we are, the silent companions on our journey home. Tonight, your memories carry you gently, cradled by the warmth of shared stories and soft laughter long past. And as your eyelids grow heavier, you imagine that boy with the crooked smile, the sketch of a stubborn goat, and the taste of that unexpected chocolate, all folding into the quiet night like a lullaby written by time itself. There is peace in these small things, little acts of kindness that bloom even in the darkest places. You let your thoughts wander to the rhythm of a slow, steady heartbeat. Their steady beat, a reminder that rest is well earned, that peace is possible, and that tomorrow brings another chance to find light in unexpected places. So now you tuck yourself in with the comfort of those memories, safe beneath the gentle cover of night, knowing that stories like these, shared softly, will carry you through until morning. Sleep well, friend. The world is quieter now, and you are not alone.